welcome back to From Scratch Ranch and our modern farmhouse build. Jason here, and as you can see, the drywall's finally done. They've got it all taped and mudded, and they've put this texture, this knockdown texture on all the walls and ceilings, and it just looks really good. So that's ready for priming and painting as soon as all the trim work gets done. And before that, they've got to get all the doors delivered, all the interior doors. We got some wood doors, some farmhouse style doors coming. So those have to be delivered and installed. Our tile has all been delivered. That's for the bathroom showers and the master bath floor. So that's ready to go. I think the tile guy's gonna be here this week to do that. We've also picked out our stone veneer, the color and the style that we want for our fireplace here. The fireplace wall is gonna be all stone veneer up to the mantle. So about 10 feet wide. It won't go all the way to the corners, but close. 10 feet wide of all this stone and about 6 feet high. And then also the hearth down here at the hearth, we're gonna build a hearth that's gonna be 10 feet long all the way across there. And that's about 16 inches tall to the bottom of the fireplace right there. And then I'm gonna come 24 inches out into the room. So that's the project I've got today, to build the structure for the hearth so the stone can be installed on that structure. So let's get to it. One thing I need to really take note of is all of this red. Yes, it's red for a reason, because it says warning, fire hazard, no wood, drywall, or combustibles on this surface. It says it all over the place. It's got warning tags all over the place. Risk of fire, warning, no wood, drywall, or combustibles on this surface. Do not remove this. In the manual, the install manual, it says it. The company I bought this fireplace from, this is the Quadrifire Pioneer 3 wood burning fireplace insert. And the installers from that company had reminded me over and over again, do not put anything on here that is combustible. So that includes the hearth down below, because you can see there's red down below the fireplace. That means I cannot have any wood or combustible materials up against that red part below the fireplace. I need to use non-combustible materials for that. And if you've seen our previous videos where the framers actually did frame out this hearth, the original hearth here, out of wood, I had to rip that out. Not just because it was made out of combustible materials, but also because it was too small. I wanted it deeper and longer, so I went ahead and just ripped it all out, and I'm going to have to rebuild that. And I need to rebuild the hearth according to the specifications, specifically laid out right inside here and in the install manual, where it tells me exactly how I need to build it and with what materials to build it with. As you can see here in the specifications, it shows that I need a minimum of 20 inches out from the fireplace itself. So my capstone needs to be at least 20. I'm going with 24, so I'm good there. It also shows that it needs to be 2 inches thick with a cement board or equivalent. So my stone, the capstone, is going to be 2 inches thick plus a 1/2 inch cement board. So I think I'm good there. What is more important to take note of is right there where it says non-combustible framing materials. Yeah, I need to build out the entire thing out of non-combustible framing materials. Now, I don't know if that's because it says it's a combustible floor, if this was like a wood subfloor or not. I'm not sure. We have concrete floors, so I'm non-combustible all the way around. And it says non-combustible materials, so I'm gonna have to do that. I'm not gonna shortcut this. I need to build this out of steel studs. I think it's a bit overkill for my application here, but because it says it in the manual, I'm gonna do it. I'm not gonna shortcut this. I don't wanna void any warranties, or even more important, have danger, fire danger, that I don't want my house to burn down. And so if that's what they're instructing me to do, that's what I'm gonna do. So I've got my materials right here, where I've got my steel studs and tracks right there. I'm gonna build out part of the hearth out of the steel studs, and I've also got wood treated against the concrete. And then I got my Durarock, so my cement board. This is a 1/2 inch cement board. I'm gonna be using that. I know this probably could be plywood or even drywall, because they're gonna put the stone veneer over that drywall, so it shouldn't be a problem. But I just went ahead and bought the Durarock. I'd rather use that. So I'm gonna frame out the center part of the hearth right along this red here, which is 4.5 feet. So I'm gonna make it 5 feet here because the dirt rock's 5 feet, the studs are 10 feet, divided by 2, 5, just works out nice, the math. So I'm gonna go 5 feet right here in the middle, framing it all out with metal. And then on the ends, both ends, 2.5 feet on both ends, will be framed out of wood. And that's just because the metal was super expensive to buy compared to the wood, especially since the wood was free for me because I'm just using all of the scrap lumber that's left over from the framing here. The second thing I need to take note of is down here, this is an access panel that opens. So I've got to make sure that there's plenty of clearance for that. And I think they've kind of built that in to where this extends down just a little bit further than the bottom of the access panel door here, and that gives enough room. So that means my stone probably will just butt up right against this, as tight as I can get it. And because there's this gap right here, that means from out there, sitting on the couch, I probably will see a red stripe through there because there'll be that gap. So to take care of that, I'm just gonna mask this off, and the fireplace did come with some high heat stove paint, spray paint. So touch up paint, flat black. So I'm just gonna mask that off, spray in there so that red turns to black so it won't show. So just to be clear, this is a non-combustible paint. Extreme heat up to 1400 degrees, and this is what they gave me with the fireplace. So I'm gonna be spraying this on. So now you can see there's not gonna be that red stripe there. Good, now we can start framing. So the third thing I need to take note of is the actual dimensions that I need to build this hearth in. Now I do wanna go 16 inches high and 24 inches out and 10 feet long, but the framework underneath that needs to be built to accommodate the thickness of the stone, the thickness of the Durarock, and whatnot. I can't forget about that, right? So the height here is 16 inches. So I need to come down 2 inches for the thickness of my capstone, plus another ½ inch for my Durarock, and then a little bit for the mortar that the stone will set in. On the ends, I need to overlap by 1 inch on each end, because I want to have a little bit of overlap over that stone. Plus the stone itself is about 2 inches thick or deep, and then the mortar, and then the ½ inch Durarock. So I need to set that back on both ends and also the front to make sure I shrink that framework down to accommodate all of those layers of additional materials that are going to be put on there so it all fits just right. So I have never worked with metal studs before, building out a metal wall. It seems simple enough. I still prefer working with wood, but we're going to have to try this out here. So apparently, all you need to do is have a bottom and top track. That's what this is. It's just kind of a steel folded over there on the ends. And then you have your studs. This is all 20 gauge. I went with 20. There was 25 gauge. I went with the lower gauge, thicker metal because of the supporting all this stone. So I went with that, the 20 gauge. And these are a stud. And you can see that the studs are wrapped all the way around. And so it gives it a lot more rigidity this direction as it stands up vertically. So basically you lay out your track on the bottom, you cut your studs, put them vertically in there, perpendicular to the track, and a track on top. And you just use pan head screws to screw it in. So first thing we're gonna do, we got a 10-foot long track here. I need 5 feet, cut it right in half. Use the other part for the top track. We'll cut our studs at 13.5 or so and lay it out, screw it together, and we'll have our first wall back here. So the top and the bottom. If we lay it out on the floor and build it out, it'll be like that. Now I just gotta cut my studs. So I'm actually looking at 15 3/4 to the bottom of that. So 2 inch of the capstone, 13 3/4 plus the 1/2 inch Durarock, so 13 1/4. I think I'm gonna give myself a 1/4 inch play for the mortar and just in case, a little wiggle room. So I'm gonna cut my studs to 13 inches. I've also got the thickness of the track also. So it's not much, but it's something. So 13-inch studs. Well, that doesn't look right. Screw the tin snips, especially these rusty old ones. I think I got a better idea. Yeah, I'm gonna go with my Evolution metal saw. Yeah, this is meant for like tubular steel and really much thicker steel, but you know what? I think it's gonna work. And much better than those tin snips. Let's see. Oh yeah, that's gonna be a lot faster, much more accurate. That's gonna go a lot faster, especially I gotta cut a bunch of these. All right, so got all my studs. Let's measure out 16 on center. So I'm 16, 16, 16, and then this last part will be just 12 because this is 60 inches. But that'll work fine. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 studs. Now on the outsides, I'm gonna face them with the solid piece on the outside. I'm gonna do the same on this end, solid piece on the outside, because when I extend this out with the actual wood, I'll be able to screw these into the actual wood extensions. The middle ones don't necessarily matter so much. I'll just keep them all going in the same direction for consistency. Now we'll just get our drill, screw gun, and these pan head screws, and we'll screw it in both sides. Sure things lined up right. Okay, that didn't work so well. These screws that I have are not self-drilling, so I'm gonna just drill a small pilot hole. And Man, that kind of sucks. Wish I had self-drilling screws. Yeah, I don't like that. All right, I just cut a 3-inch piece of wood, just to kind of a spacer there to hold that while I drill, so it doesn't compress on me. Yeah, much easier. All right. There's got to be a lot of tricks of the trade that I'm just not aware of since I've never worked with metal studs before. Right, first wall done. Just like that. We'll secure that into the wall and into the floor later. But I need to build another one that's gonna go up here in the front, and then some dividers at each one of these 16-inch stud areas to go across and box this whole thing in. Yeah, that was a little bit more work than I really kind of wanted. I think framing that out of wood is just a lot faster for me. I don't have any experience with this metal stud system, so it took me a little bit to figure out and get going on it, but yeah, that's gonna work. Now I need to make some cross members here. So I cut a 13-inch for the bottom and a 20.5 for the top. Because my hearthstone, the capstone here is 24 inches. I want almost an inch overhang. So that brings me to 23. Then I got 2 inches for the stone and a 1/2 inch for the Durock. So, and then some mortar in there that'll bring it, you know, within under an inch to 3/4 of an inch overhang. So what I did is I cut this to 20.5, and what I need to do is kind of mark where these studs are, and I'm gonna cut with my tin snips, make sure everything's gonna be square and everything. My tin snips, and for the inside here, I'm gonna flip this around, I'll cut it. The outside will screw in, but the inside I need to cut and cut this out so that it will lay on top of there and fit nicely like that. And this doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be able to overlap with the other part of the wall. Oh, I gotta get better tin snips than this. Okay. So you can see it's notched out, so that way this notch fits in there perfect. And for the outside, you know, I'm not cutting the outside. I'm gonna leave that. We'll square everything up, screw this all in. I'll put a stud in here to give support in the center. I got one on the other end too. We'll do the same thing there. And then for every stud in between, we'll do something very, very similar to this, but I'll have to cut both sides and have it overlap because it's not on the end here. All right, well, I got the metal framework part of this done, of the hearth. I don't think I really enjoyed it that much, but it's done. It's nice and sturdy and not combustible. That's the key thing, it's not combustible. So next what I gotta do is I need to extend the hearth out with wood now, another 2.5 feet that way, and then another 2.5 feet out this direction. But I'm gonna build both sides out, and then I'll go ahead and anchor this all into the concrete and into the wall. And then, once that's done, we'll go ahead and put all of the Durarock on and have it ready for the stone. 10 1/4, I need 12 of these things.